Hi, this is Chris Hurd, Associate Professor of Religion at Pepperdine University, bringing you another screencast about typing in Hebrew on your Macintosh computer. In this screencast, I'm going to show you some of the challenges we face when typing in Hebrew on Mac OS X. In a previous screencast, I showed you the basics of how to access the Hebrew keyboards. We'll also discuss font issues in this particular screencast. Now, I still have on my screen the document that I created during the other screencast, in which I typed Bereshit bara Elohim, the first 3 words of the book of Genesis. Notice where the cursor is blinking. Mac OS X supports right-to-left word processing, but it's not really optimized for right-to-left word processing. So you can see the insertion point blinking to the right of the word Elohim, but let me switch to my Hebrew keyboard. If I continue to type, oh, look where it comes out. It comes out at the left-hand side of the line. Now, the letters are being inserted in the place where I want them to be inserted, but the insertion point is blinking in a different spot. And that makes it a little bit difficult to select and edit Hebrew text using the Mac OS X native right-to-left engines. This doesn't mean that you should try Microsoft Word, however. Watch what happens in Microsoft Word when we try to type in Hebrew. I've already set up this document with Lucida Grande so that we'll be using the built-in system fonts. And I just start typing Bereshit. Whoa, what in the world just happened there? Bara. No, it doesn't resemble Genesis 1:1 at all. Elohim. Well, at least that part came out looking all right. Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and Excel simply do not support right-to-left word processing on the Macintosh at this time being November 2009. So I'm going to go ahead and quit Word. I'm not even going to try to use it if I am typing in Hebrew. So that brings us back over here to Pages. Suppose that I had gotten one of these letters incorrect. Pretend like this Aleph really ought to be an ayin here in the first word. So if I click and drag, well, my insertion point went away and I don't see anything highlighted. I'm kind of guessing in the dark here. If I try to type an ayin, oh, it looked like I actually had selected the tsere rather than the aleph. Not at all what we want. Well, let's undo that. If I select the whole thing and push my right arrow key, not my left arrow key, but my right arrow key, I'm working right to left, so I have to think backwards on all the arrow keys. Now I can begin to delete things, but notice when I come to this aleph with the segol, when I push my delete key, it will delete the entire slot, both the aleph and the segol, not just the segol. And so on back all the way. So that can make editing a little bit frustrating when you're using Pages, Numbers, or Keynote. Then again, they actually do work right to left, whereas the Microsoft products do not. Let's talk fonts just for a minute before I show you my preferred solution for word processing on the Macintosh. I'm going to go ahead and select this entire section and show you a couple of different font possibilities. I did mention in the previous screencast that you do not have to install any special fonts in order to type in Hebrew on your Macintosh. The system already has certain fonts installed that will support your Hebrew typing. What you see on the screen right now, the menu bar for Pages says this is Helvetica, but actually what you're seeing is the Lucida Grande version of Hebrew. Mac OS X also supports Arial Hebrew, which is a bit more rounded, still looks pretty nice. It also supports font that's called New Penonim MT. This is my preferred font for typing in Hebrew because it looks like the typeset Hebrew that I see so often in my Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia and other such sources. You can get other fonts that support Unicode Hebrew and that work okay on Mac OS X, but the new SBL Hebrew font from Tiro Typeworks, as of November 2009, is not one of them. Look what happens when I change into SBL Hebrew in Pages. All of the vowel pointings are shifted. The gesh is shifted over by the resh. The vowels are not lining up with their consonants. It just becomes a really big mess. The reason for this is because Tiro created the SBL Hebrew font with Windows in mind, and Pages does not understand how to read the font hints and so on from a Windows font. So while you can install SBL Hebrew on your Macintosh computer, you cannot type and get good results with it if you're using Pages, Numbers, or Keynote. However, all hope is not lost. Allow me to show you a program that I use for word processing called Melel. Now, I do not work for Redlex, the makers of Melel, but I'm a very satisfied customer and have been for quite a number of years. I'll go ahead and zoom in so that it will be easier to see. And I will go ahead and make the font larger. Now, Melel allows you to define in its styles a primary font and a secondary font. So I have my primary font set to Minion Pro and my secondary font set to SBL Hebrew. Melel is smart enough to know that when I change to a Hebrew keyboard, I want to change to my Hebrew font as well. So I could type something like, let me switch to English. The first line of the Hebrew Bible reads, now I switch to Hebrew. Bereshit, bara, Elohim. Whoops, I made a mistake. Uh-oh. Now, the cursor is still flashing at the right-hand side of my text. That's going to be a little bit unavoidable here, but Melel is smart enough to use SBL Hebrew and line up all the letters right, for one thing, and also to treat each individual keystroke as a separate thing, so that when I delete that sere, the hey doesn't go with it. And now I can correct my typo and proceed with my text. If you're going to be doing a lot of word processing that involves typing in Hebrew, I recommend that you go ahead and invest in Melel. If you're a college student or faculty member, you can get Melel for only $35. I think it's only $49 if you're not in one of those discounted categories. Very inexpensive, a powerful word processing program, designed especially for academic word processing, so it does things a little bit differently from Microsoft Word and Pages and takes some getting used to. But you'll have much less frustration typing in Hebrew if you go ahead and invest in Melel. Well, I hope that this pair of screencasts about typing in Hebrew on your Macintosh will help you to get started and get going, and that you will enjoy many fruitful years of word processing with Hebrew on your Macintosh computer.